So that's sort of where I got to last week. Sally, you actually did the first initial washes of the buildings, didn't you?
Yes.
Now, Sally, don't carry on with the buildings. Get the rest of the foreground.
Okay.
Begin to work on that. Yes, because you want it to sort of have a feeling of unity.
Yeah.
And if you focus on the buildings, and you'll find it hard to get the washes up to the right depth in the foreground.
Okay.
So I always aim to keep the picture more or less at the same stage, the whole thing. I mean, I know I said start with the sky. Well, I mean, that's fairly loose, and I'm not going to do any more on the sky, but I would now begin to plot in perhaps that colour which is on the horizon line to the right of the picture.
Yes.
And then I might then put in some colour where the buildings are, and then the first wash of that tree. That tree, I don't think it's, from my own practice, it's not easy to get that darker colour without doing more than one layer of washes.
Okay.
So when I start painting, I'm going to start by putting in that sort of bluey grey on the horizon line on the far right of the picture.
Yes. Yep.
I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to work my way across the whole of this foreground and get the foreground in.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I just think that if you leave one part, if you focus completely on one part and you ignore the other bits, you stand the danger of losing the values of the colours. Do you know what I mean? Because if you've got lots of white on your page, without realising it, you're kind of battling with that white. In terms of how you assess what the tones are. I don't know if I'm making sense to you all, but I just think it's good, like Carol said, to map out as much of you as you can, so you don't ignore any part of that painting, and you work the layers up together if possible. So you're starting on the sky, aren't you, Yvonne?
Yes.
Right. Well, as I said, that I put an extremely pale. If you just have a look at this strip of paper here, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
But that is yellow.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see. I mean, probably almost looks white against my paper, but this is my white paper, and it probably almost looks similar. But in fact, it's a very, very pale mix of Gamboge raw sienna. So it's a sort of very pale, warm yellow. And in my reproduction, and yours may be different because mine is the book, and I think when you take things either off the internet or you print out from something I've sent you, it will affect the colours. Now, in this one here, this book here, it really does look as though he's sort of put a very pale yellow wash on first and then done the grey of the clouds. And what it does is it gives this effect of the sun, just this very weak winter sun breaking through the clouds.
Lovely.
And it's rather lovely, especially the warm against the cool grey. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So when you come to, I mix up your yellow first and do plenty of it. And then the grey, or the bluey grey of the clouds, I did it with Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, and raw sienna. So again, it's got all three of those colours in to make grey, which is what happens if you mix the three primaries, but in varying degrees. So you will need to test it out on a test strip, dry your test strip, and just check the colour. Now, remember you're pushing that A colour, the sky, over the top of this pale yellow. So it needs to be a touch more blue than you think, because if it goes over the yellow will affect it a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at his picture and this particular band here, which I said on the far right-hand side of the picture, it looks like he's used that drag the brush again to create that dry brush technique. So I have taken out most of the colour in my brush, and I'm just going to drag it. And if you can, I don't know if you can see this, but when you drag it with a minimum amount of paint in it, it gives you that kind of broken dragged effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll go in a bit closer. So if you do that dry brush technique, you put your brush in your colour and then wipe off most of it on the paper towel, which leaves only a little colour, which you can then drag on the paper, and it will give the sort of slightly mottled effect. The tree shape will take several washes, I think, before you can get it to that deep dark colour. But if you can get that deep dark colour directly, then that's fine. You can put it in, but I'd leave it till maybe you're a bit further on with the foreground.